All right, let's dive in. Today, we're cracking open a book that's over 500 years old. It's been called dangerous, brilliant, sometimes even flat out evil. But we're going to see how its pretty ruthless advice on power applies directly to one of the toughest jobs in tech, product management.
And yeah, I get it. It's a fair question. What could some Florentine diplomat writing about dukes and mercenaries possibly have to say to you? You know, someone who's managing a backlog, leading a dev team, or trying to get a new product off the ground.
And there it is. That's the answer. See, the core of Machiavelli's work isn't really about castles and armies. It's about power. It's about politics and psychology. The technology, sure, that changes. But the people navigating it all, we're all basically running on the same human operating system we were back in 1513.
Okay, so let's start with a classic challenge for any product leader, bringing a new team, or maybe even a whole new company, into the fold. Machiavelli had a name for this. He called it annexing a new state. And you know what? The parallel here it's kind of striking. Machiavelli described a mixed principality as when you attach a new territory to your own, a place where the culture and the customs are totally foreign. Does that sound familiar at all? Because that is the exact challenge of a merger, where you're trying to stitch a startup's agile, fast-moving culture onto a giant, established corporation. So, how do you actually pull this off? Well, Machiavelli gives us a 3-step playbook. First up, move there. Don't try to lead from headquarters over Zoom calls. No, you have to be on the ground, present with that new team. Second, send colonies, not armies. This is key. Don't just send in a massive team of your own people to take over. That just creates an us versus them war. Instead, you place a few key people. Think of them as your cultural ambassadors to help guide the integration. And finally, and this is the tough one, weaken the powerful. You have to deal with the old leadership, the ones who resist the new way of doing things. It's a hard call for sure, but it's absolutely essential if you want to establish the new order.
And that brings us to the most famous part of the book. Yeah, the part that gave us the word Machiavellian. We're talking about how you wield power to survive the often, let's be honest, brutal world of corporate politics.
And here it is, the big one, the ultimate leadership question. Every single product manager, every team lead, every CEO has stared this one in the face. What do you want? Do you want your team to like you, or do you want them to respect the consequences of not delivering on their promises? Machiavelli's answer is, well, famously unsentimental. Love, he argues, is a bond that people will break anytime it's convenient for them. But fear? Fear is maintained by the dread of consequences. Now, in product terms, this isn't about being a tyrant, let's be clear. It's about accountability. It means setting up clear, consistent consequences for mediocre work and for missed commitments. So how do you use that power without getting burned? Machiavelli says you can't just be one thing, you've got to be both the lion and the fox. The lion, that's your raw power, your authority. You use that to fend off direct threats, like a stakeholder trying to just bulldoze your roadmap. But the lion can be a little naive. It can't see the political traps. And for that, you need to be the fox. Cunning, diplomatic, able to sniff out those hidden agendas. A great PM knows exactly when to roar and when to outsmart everyone in the room. Okay, this is a shocking quote, I know, but its modern-day application is incredibly profound. To avoid being hated, which is very different from being feared, you must never, ever touch what is most important to people. For your product team, what's their inheritance? It's the credit for their hard work. It's their autonomy. It's their professional security. A leader who steals credit or micromanages their team, well, they generate this deep-seated hatred that no amount of fear can ever control. Sooner or later, things are gonna go wrong. It's inevitable. A project will fail, the market's gonna turn, or you're gonna have to make a really painful decision. For times like these, Machiavelli offers a cold but very strategic guide to crisis management. He brings up this concept of well-used cruelty. Now, it sounds brutal, I know, but think of it more like strategic pain. It's a necessary, difficult action that you do decisively and all at once to save the entire operation. It's all about taking a big hit now to guarantee stability down the road. Just think about how this applies to the painful reality of layoffs. Badly used cruelty is death by 1,000 cuts. Those small, repeated layoffs that just create a culture of constant terror where no one can get any work done. The Machiavellian approach, the well-used cruelty, is to make one single decisive cut. Yeah, it's a horrible day, but afterwards, their survivors know the bleeding has stopped, they have security again, and the company can actually start to heal. But what about the crises you can't control? Market downturns and new competitor out of nowhere, disruptive tech. Machiavelli describes fortune as this violent, unpredictable river that is eventually going to flood. You can't stop the flood from coming.
But you can prepare for it. And the key is to build your defenses during peacetime, when the water is calm. For a product team, what does that look like? It means paying down technical debt so your system is resilient when it's under stress. It means building strong security protocols before you get hacked. And for the company, it means building up a cash reserve, a war chest, to survive the inevitable economic winter. You have to build the dikes before the storm hits.
So, we've talked about offense, we've talked about defense, but what is the single most important source of security for any leader according to Machiavelli? It's probably not what you think.
And there it is. Your greatest defense isn't your title, it's not your budget, it's not some fancy corner office. It is the loyalty and the support of your team. A leader who is hated by their own people is incredibly vulnerable. If your team trusts you, they will go to bat for you during a messy corporate reorg. But if they hate you, they'll be the first ones to open the gates for your rivals.
So how do you build this fortress of loyalty? Well, it starts with surrounding yourself with competent people that you can actually trust. You have to actively avoid yes men by creating a culture where your team feels safe telling you the hard truth. Crucially, as we said before, you must never steal their inheritance, the credit for their work. And ultimately, you just have to empower them. Trusting your team with autonomy and giving them the tools to succeed, Machiavelli literally called this arming your people, is the ultimate sign of a secure and confident leader. And that kind of brings us to our final thought. Now, fun fact, Machiavelli never actually wrote the famous phrase, "the ends justify the means." But his work forces all of us to confront that very question. In your own career, as you're navigating deadlines and stakeholders and all that pressure, where do you draw the line? Where's the line between effective leadership and your own personal moral code? Something to think about.